Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Thiessen. I'm the CEO of Northern Dynasty Minerals. There's the admonition on forward-looking statements, or the cautionary, to use lawyer's language. I don't have too many slides, and this is all about what we're doing next on Northern Dynasty mainly. This slide, let me talk just briefly about each one of these items. Copper as a critical mineral. I believe copper is the most critical. You can't make electricity. First of all, you don't find electricity in nature. You got to make it. You got to manage it. You got to transport it, and you got to use it. And all three of those things you can't do without copper. And so copper is the key to electrification, digitalization, and the like. And like the gentleman that was just before me, talking about minerals. The reality is we need not minerals, we need metals. I mean, minerals are important, they come from it, but most of the metal is produced outside of North America. He talked about antimony. Well, we don't have any smelters or refineries that actually produce antimony metal. Not only do you have to build a mine that might produce that, or copper as a concentrate, we need the smelters and refineries. Canada, BC, has no copper smelters or refinery. There's only one real copper smelter in Canada, that's the Horn, and it doesn't do mine concentrates anymore. It only does recycling. So again, in the United States, there's 2 smelters in all of the United States. So not only do we need mines, we need smelters. And if you think it takes a long time to permit a mine, the last time a smelter was permitted in the United States was 1971, and they didn't build that smelter. So, I mean, there is a new technology that I think is at the forefront that will replace smelter technology, but it's called hydrometallurgy. There is one hydrometallurgical plant that I know of in the world that's producing base metals, and it's in Newfoundland. It processes Voisey's Bay nickel and copper into metal. So I would say that, we really need to get on this, and we need to get on it quickly, and we need to permit mines, and we need to permit hydrometallurgical facilities to be able to produce metal. Copper, electric vehicles use 3 times as much copper. There's an interesting visual capitalist presentation that came out yesterday. It was about data centers. The largest data center in the world is located in North Virginia. Think government services, the military, intelligence, and all the rest. That single community of data centers uses 2,500 megawatts, or its capacity is 2,500 megawatts. Now, most people, relatively speaking, is that a lot? Is it not much? Site C Dam, which is a $25 billion project being built here in British Columbia, it'll start producing in 2025, will produce 1,100 megawatts capacity. That's good for about 400,000 homes. That community of data centers in Virginia uses 2.5 times as much. There's about 80 of these large-scale data centers in the world today. They think it's going to grow by 60 to 70-fold. That's the size of the electrical inventory that we're going to have to build. The next thing is Pebble itself. It's a world-class resource. It's in all categories. It's 10 billion tons, about 60% of that's in measured and indicated. Its overall deposit is about a 2.5 to 1 waste-ore ratio. The best grades are not in that original deposit. They're off to the west. And there's lots of exploration potential on the ground. We've taken through permitting a 1.3 billion ton mine development plan, 20 years. It's got a 0.5 to 1 waste-to-ore ratio. It's about a 0.53 head grade. So that's about 11 pounds of copper per ton of rock or copper equivalent. So that's $40 rock. On an NSR basis, it's $30 rock, and the cash operating costs are about $12 a ton. So it's got huge margin potential. So what's happened recently on Pebble? Well, we finished the EIS, one of the most comprehensive and most positive EISs that I know of in the last 20 years in the United States. And then we went for a permit, and this was in August, September, October of 2020. And we were turned down. And the reason we were turned down, the statement that was given, was that in the event of a catastrophic tailings failure, that it was going to damage water quality, sustenance fisheries, commercial fisheries, and the like. And there's no mention of a likelihood of a catastrophic tailings failure in the EIS. In fact, it says there's no likelihood of a catastrophic tailings failure. So in the appeal, the administrative appeal we went through, the administrative judge asked the Army Corps of Engineers where this statement of the catastrophic tailings failure came from. Because she said it's not in the EIS. And if you don't have any record of it, then you must remove it. You must redo the decision on the permit, and you have to remove any reference to catastrophic tailings failure or any consequences on water quality, fisheries, sustenance, or commercial or otherwise. And there was a bunch of other things that she ordered. So we believe that we're now set up to redo the permit decision, and the outcome will be a positive permit decision. The one thing that's in front of us, though, is the EPA in January of last year issued a final determination to preemptively veto 309 square miles of the Pebble area for no mine development. Now, nowhere in any legislation does it say that the EPA has a right to veto a region. What it says in the Clean Water Act 404C, which is where the veto is, it says they can veto a project that's being applied for under paragraph A, which was the 20-year 1.3 billion ton. Well, that's not what they vetoed. They vetoed the district. So, plus the EIS supports the approval of the permit. It doesn't support the issuance of a veto. So we will be taking the EPA to court ourselves in the state. Now, last summer, the state, because they've got special rights in this regard, made an application, asked the Supreme Court of the United States to hear their appeal of the final determination on the preemptive veto. And while it's unusual and the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear that, and they made a decision in January of this year that a better alternative would be to go to the federal court and hear it on a full court basis, full judicial basis, as opposed to a summary decision at the Supreme Court. So that's where we're off to now. We'll be filing the writ with the federal court in the next month or so, and the state will be behind us. We expect that will take us probably 15 to 18 months, and then we'll get to the remand order for the new permit. So that's where we're headed ourselves and the state. We think that that's good news for Pebble and its shareholders. This is a process. The 5 biggest mines in the United States, which have all been added about the same time as Pebble, most of them in the permitting process much longer than Pebble. Twin Metals has effectively been expropriated by the federal government. Resolution, that's a Rio Tinto BHP project. It's in the appeal courts in San Francisco. Polymet, which is a Glencore Tech asset, it's had its ROD rescinded, and they have to go back and redo a bunch of the water quality issues with American natives that are about 100 miles downstream. And Rosemont had their ROD rescinded, and they've decided to go ahead with a smaller oxide project. So I'm going to say it's normal course. If the speaker before me, who talked about needing things to happen tomorrow, they don't. They don't happen tomorrow in the United States or in Canada. We have to go through these processes. I think Pebble is near the end of it, and it's the biggest undeveloped deposit of minerals in the world. Copper represents about 55%, gold represents about 35%. It's one of the biggest silver deposits. It's 500 million ounces of silver, molybdenum, and rhenium, all critical metals in the world today.